It started with a sound that didn't belong on that quiet suburban street, a deep, throaty rumble that rolled through the still afternoon like thunder crossing a cloudless sky. Dogs barked, curtains twitched, and somewhere a lawn sprinkler kept spinning, oblivious to the sudden tension that gripped the block. 4 motorcycles appeared from around the corner, their chrome catching the sun, their engines growling low and steady. The men who rode them looked like they had come straight out of another world, leather vests, boots heavy with dust, and eyes that spoke of miles ridden and battles survived. Across their backs, one name burned in crimson thread: Hell's Raiders. Neighbors disappeared behind doors. A mother on her porch scooped up her toddler and vanished inside. Even the birds seemed to fall silent. But amid that storm of engines and fear, a single voice rose, small, fragile, and trembling with something purer than fear. "Sir, will you buy my bike?" The engines faded to a low idle. The men turned. On the sidewalk stood a little girl, no more than 6, her blonde hair tangled from wind and worry. She wore a faded blue dress with a white collar, the kind that belonged to another time. Next to her stood a pink bicycle with a white basket, scuffed but still bright, like a tiny fragment of happiness she was trying desperately to hold on to. In her hands she clutched a cardboard sign. 2 words, written in a child's shaky scrawl: "For sale." The leader, a broad-shouldered man with dark stubble and quiet eyes, shut off his engine. The others followed suit. One by one, the bikes fell silent until only the hum of distant traffic filled the space. The man swung a leg off his Harley and knelt down to her level. The sun glinted off his vest, rider stitched across the chest, wolf across the back. "Hey, kid," he said softly, voice gravelly but not unkind. "What's this all about?" She hesitated, clutching the sign tighter. Behind her, under the shade of a nearby tree, sat a woman wrapped in a blanket. Her face was pale, eyes sunken, hair falling over her shoulders in tangled strands. The woman watched them with a mixture of exhaustion and shame, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding her world together with nothing but willpower. "That's my mommy," the girl whispered. "She hasn't eaten in 2 days. I'm selling my bike so I can buy food." The men shifted uncomfortably. Ryder felt something tighten in his chest. He'd seen plenty of hard times, men broken by war, families torn apart by greed, dreams turned to dust. But this was different. There was something about the way the little girl stood there, trying to be brave, trying to fix what no child should have to, that made the world stop spinning for a second. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked. "Mira," she said. "Mommy says I was named after her favorite song." Ryder smiled faintly. "That's a good name." He turned his gaze toward the woman beneath the tree. She looked away, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. The faint breeze lifted the edge of her blanket, revealing a name tag still pinned to her old uniform: Clara. Ryder remembered that name. Clara had worked for a local catering company. He'd done business with them before, good folks, hard workers. The owner was a man named Hensley, the kind who smiled for magazines and posed with big checks for charity while counting every penny behind closed doors. Ryder's jaw clenched. He looked back at Mira. "Where's your dad, honey?" The question hung there like smoke. The little girl's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head. "It's just us." Behind Ryder, his brothers, Tank, Mason, and Viper, stood in silence. They'd seen their share of darkness, but this quiet tragedy hit different. Tank, the biggest of them, crossed his arms and muttered, "Boss, this ain't right." No, it wasn't. Ryder reached into his vest and pulled out his worn leather wallet. He flipped through the bills, took out everything he had, and pressed it into Mira's tiny hands. "Keep the bike, kiddo," he said gently. "That bike's not for sale anymore." Her eyes widened. "But that's a lot of money." Ryder smiled, his voice low. "Then it's a lot of kindness, isn't it?" For a moment, the air changed. The fear that had hung over the street began to fade. The engines were still, the sun warm again. But Ryder's mind wasn't still. Something inside him, something he'd buried a long time ago, stirred awake. He turned to his brothers. We're not done here. They knew that tone. It wasn't anger. It was conviction. The kind that made grown men straighten their backs and engines roar for something bigger than pride. The four bikers mounted up and thundered down the road again, this time with purpose. Their destination, the shining glass tower downtown, the office of Mr. Edward Hensley, CEO of Hensley Catering Group. A man the world called generous, and Ryder called a coward. When they walked through those polished glass doors, the world inside stopped. The receptionist froze mid-sentence. Phones went silent. The sound of 4 pairs of boots echoed like war drums down the marble hall. Ryder didn't need to raise his voice when he entered Hensley's office. The man looked up from behind his massive mahogany desk, irritation flashing in his eyes. "What is this?" Hensley demanded. "Who let you?" Ryder placed something on the desk. A small piece of cardboard, creased at the corners, still warm from a child's hands. It read "For sale." "That," Ryder said quietly, "is what your greed cost." Hensley blinked, confused, then sneered. "You can't just barge in here." But Ryder didn't move. He leaned forward, eyes locked on him. "Clara. You fired her. She begged you to keep her job, just for a few more weeks. You turned her away, said she was replaceable. Her daughter is 6 years old. She tried to sell her bike today so her mom could eat." Hensley opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Mason stepped closer, the floor creaking under his boots. Tank's massive frame filled the doorway. The air in the office grew heavy, electric. Ryder's voice dropped lower. "You call yourself a good man. You give to charity, right? You like the cameras, the applause. But there's a woman starving under a tree not 2 miles from your mansion. You think your name means something? It doesn't. Not today." Hensley swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Ryder said. "This isn't about money. It's about decency. You can't buy forgiveness, but you can earn a little humanity back. Maybe start with her." They left without another word. By sunset, the whole town was talking. Someone saw Hensley leave his office early, looking pale as a ghost. The next morning, the news spread. The man who once fired struggling single mothers had anonymously donated a year's worth of groceries to dozens of families, paid off medical bills, and personally reached out to those he'd let go. No one knew what changed his heart. Except 4 bikers, and a little girl with a pink bike. Except 4 bikers, and a little girl with a pink bike. When the Hells Raiders returned to that quiet street later that evening, the scene was different. The tree still stood, but Clara was on her feet now, hairbrush, color back in her cheeks. Mira ran to Ryder, eyes shining with excitement. "Mommy's okay," she cried. "She's okay." Ryder crouched down, smiling despite the lump in his throat. "Told you we'd make it right." Clara stepped forward, tears streaking her face. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Ryder shook his head. "You don't owe us anything. Just promise you'll never stop fighting. Ever." That night, they shared a simple meal beneath the same tree, the bikers, the woman, and the child who had tried to sell her only toy for love. The sky turned gold, then crimson, and for a brief moment, the world felt whole again. Mira leaned against her mother, her little hand resting on the folded cardboard sign. Ryder glanced at it, smiled, and said, "Keep that, kiddo. Someday, when someone else needs help, you'll know what to do." The engines roared to life one last time, echoing down the street like a promise kept. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Kindness Spot. Because sometimes, all it takes is one act of courage to make the whole world believe in compassion again.